All right, so here it is. It just kind of shows you how to use the interface, where you can minimize the console, everything else. And first of all, want to see anybody could raise their hands and see if they can hear me. And, all right, starting to get the hand raises. That's awesome. So unlike last week, now now everybody can hear us. So now we'll move on and get into the meat of this. So I'm glad you all could join us. And it looks like we're going to continue to have other people go on. So we're going to be talking about using the coordinate system in Revit, and Tony's going to open this up for us.
All right, thank you, Brian. Good morning. Welcome to my lowly architect friend here. Oh, I'm just kidding. So we're going to cover sharing coordinates in Revit, and there's a lot of stuff that could be covered. We're going to look at sharing and using coordinate systems in Revit. There's lots of things you can do. There's different ways of doing it. There's ways of doing that work and some ways that don't work. We're going to mention the ways that don't work and cover a few of the ways that do work. We're not going to cover everything because we don't want to make this, 5-hour webinar?
Yeah, this would probably end up being a lot. I know a lot of you are going to have a lot of questions. If you could start posting your questions. I feel the way that this is going to run, though, is we're not going to be able to go through everything. So we're probably going to take this on as a couple different webinars, right, Tony?
Yeah, oh, definitely. I'll try and keep this one, we're going to try and keep this one fairly simple, and then assuming we have another one, it's not been scheduled yet, but if we have another one, it'll get a little deeper, cover more.
Yeah, we have some questions from the last just tech calls and stuff that we get that I think we'll build on, but your questions that you ask here will probably foster those other webinars that Tony or I or Michael will end up building on that. All right.
So, alrighty, just what we're gonna go through today, just some basic guidelines, just very simple points, and then we'll switch over to Revit. Well, Brian will take over. We're gonna look at the architectural file. He'll set up some different sites and locations in there, and then I will do the engineering, the MEP file. I'll set those up. Go through some methods that work, and if there's time, hopefully we'll have time to show a method that works with 2014 as a new tool that's out. Do I have a slide on that? The shared reference point tools, and if you have, assuming you have subscription, you can go onto your subscription site and download the tool. It doesn't have Revit in the name, so if you're looking for it, it's under Productivity Tools for AutoCAD Civil 3D 2014. I'll leave the slide up here for just a second. You can take a look at that. And this is a very useful tool. We should have time to get through this. It makes it fairly simple to go through the process. So feel free to take a look at that. Even if we don't have time, take a look at how this one works.
Yeah, this is a great tool to have, and I've been messing with it with Brian and Haley here. He's on the GIS map side. He's our civil engineer, and it's an awesome tool to be using to have available for us. It takes away the range of being limited to 2 miles or 20 miles, what it is now, and 14, and allows you to pull in those coordinates in from the civil drawing directly. And it allows you to do a lot more stuff, like actually bringing in their surfaces, their bridges, which will have, or in the roads, which will have alignments and profiles. So we're kind of very excited there. I know if you're not in the civil 3D realm, those terms might not mean a lot to you. Basically, you can bring in the roads with the crowning and the paths that the roads are on, and really start tweaking those around. It's a great tool to have in there and start bringing that stuff across. And on the architectural side, I'll just tell you, it's really easy to use as long as your civil has it set up correctly. So a little slapping the civil around, and then after that, we've got everything going. All right, so.
That's nice. Well, the next thing we're going to do is take a look at the architectural file in Revit. So do you want to jump in on that, Brian?
Sure. So we're going to go over here and just open up a simple Revit file. So I'm going to come inside, and I'm going to start with the site plan. Some of you may have taken our classes. This is kind of the standard file I use, but it's just one to get us all familiar with it. But I'm just going to go over the basics of simply bringing in and how to do shared coordinates and what it really is for. So we all know when we bring in files into Revit, what we typically do is we'll come in and we'll bring in, I'm just going to bring in this townhouse file, it's a set of condos, and I'm going to come down. I'm not going to use center to center. Again, we don't want to be using center to center. And normally we use origin. If we already had coordinates set in, we could do shared coordinates. I don't have that set up in this file yet, so for now I'm just going to do origin, and bring this set of condos inside. Okay. Now we'll see that this building is located up here. Okay, so here's the scenario where I could have this site, and I'm going to put in this condo plan, 3 or 4 different condos, and I'm going to end up recording the positions of where those are at. And then what I'll end up doing is forcing that information back to the original townhouse file. Probably should have already showed you this, but I'll go and actually open up the townhouse file. This one will disappear in a second. But I just want to show you that that information at this point in time does not exist in here. This is just telling me it's going to unload that file. But when I come into the townhouse file and I go to the insert tab, into the manage tab and go over to location, under location I'll get to site, and it just has the internal location. Right now that's labeled location 1, but most of the time you'll see this as internal location right up in here. Okay, so I just want to pull that out and show you that right now there's no information in the townhouse file that I can drag in. So now I have this in here. I'm going to reload that file. So I'll come back in here, reload it. There's that townhouse. And now I'm just going to simply place that building in here. So I'm going to go in, zoom in. I'm just going to move that building to one location. And then I'm going to make some other copies. But before I do that, I'm going to label this one as building A. You can see we've been messing with this for a little bit. And then I'm just going to simply copy this one around, put a location there, end up copying it again. I forgot to hit my multiple copy. And I'll place one up there. Okay, so I've got 3 different locations, and you can see I got 3 different buildings. This is building C. If I come in and I select this building, it's building B, and then I have building A. I can even come in and start rotating this building. So say maybe this thing is 19 degrees off center, and I've got it located right here, and I'm really trying to place this on the site exactly where I want it to go. Okay, so I have something that resembles this, and this is where my 3 buildings I want to put inside of Revit that I'm coordinating with everybody else. Okay. Now that I have this done, I'm going to record those locations. So I come and I'll select the building A, go over where it says shared site in the properties, click on that button, and I'm going to record the current position as townhouse. I'll come in here and I'll go to change, and then I'm going to actually duplicate this location. So this current location is the site plans location, or the location of the original interior coordinates of the townhouse itself. But I'm going to make a new one. I see a lot of people, they'll go in and they'll change the internal one and rename it and make that I'll make it lot A. I find it easier just to duplicate this, leave the internal one alone, and make your new ones and keep the internal one native. Okay? So I'll go in and go to duplicate, and at this point I'm just going to type lot A, and that'll record that position. And what it's doing, I'll hit OK here. It is using the origin point of the townhouse and saying that my townhouse origin point is, let's say it's at the corner of this building right here, is located specifically at this meets and bounds and our north and west easting and all that, and at a certain elevation and a certain rotation. Okay, so all that's being recorded with that. I'll go in and do that for the other 2 buildings. So I'll come in here and go in and record this one. Again, going in, I'm going to just duplicate this and make this lot B. And simply go in and do lot C. So I've got the building C, come in here, record this, go in and duplicate that as lot C. Okay? So now that I've recorded those locations, it's inside the file. It's inside the site file. Now I'm going to show you that, trust me on this, it's located in the site file, but when I come over here to the Manage tab and go into Location and go into the site, we will not see those lots in here. But that data is recorded in here at the present, and it's referencing where these buildings are. Okay, so hopefully that's starting to make sense to people that I've recorded the data of where the linked files are and where they are in relationship to the site. Okay. I can go so far as even delete this building, copy another one of these, and so now I have a new building called Building D, and I can come in here and then move this to the C position, hit OK, and it remembers and moves that building over. So we can see that's starting to work inside the file. I start having those locations in there. Now, if I want, I can push this data back to the original file, and that's where a lot of this power comes in. Maybe you're working with the civil, or maybe you're working with structural or MEP, and you want to go in and push this data back, but you haven't had a site plan. Well, now that you finally got that site plan and they're using origin to origin, you can go back in, send them the townhouse file, and send them the site file. Simply what I'm going to do right now is go into my Insert tab, go into Manage Links, and we can see that right now if I'm looking inside, it says position not saved. But what I'm ended up doing is I'm going to select this file and hit the save position, and what that'll end up doing is pushing that data back to the original townhouse file and actually creating an update for it, which makes it a kind of a nice thing to have within inside Revit. So I'll actually show you an example of this as it's going through. So I'm going to actually pull over the files real quick, and you'll see we just have the townhouse right in here, and it has a name in here. But in a second, I'm going to go in and select this file, go into save position, save back to the original, and now what will happen is I'll open up that file, and you'll see now there's a backup, and we can see that right now the townhouse file itself is currently saved at 1012, which is exactly when I hit the OK button. So it did force that information back to the original townhouse file and saved over it, recording those locations of the building in there. Okay? And I'll further prove it by just opening up the file and showing you that when I come back in here, I go into the townhouse file, open that up. Again, I'll lose these links for a second, so they'll disappear. But when I come in here and go to my Manage tab, go into Location, and go into Site, we can see that there's now the lot positions of where those are at. Okay? And I have that recorded within the data. And now I can provide that data to my MEP, my structural, whoever needs it, the interior designer, if they so wish, they can all have that information and share it.
Cool, because yeah, as you pointed out earlier, that information was not there earlier, and now it has all of those 3 sites in there. And you can also see that the position's not saved, that was checked, and now that it's unchecked, which means they are saved.
Exactly. And another example of this is we have another building I'll bring inside that already has locations for it, and that's going to be this pool house. So I'll go in and link, grab the pool house building, and this time, since it already has shared coordinates, I can just go in and use shared coordinates. When I hit open, I can then choose which position I want this townhouse or the pool building to be. Select position 3, hit OK, there's the location. We have 3 locations, so I can actually come in here and say, well, I wanted it to move, and this is probably the biggest thing in here. Well, one of the hiccups I find that people do is instead of when they want to move something, they end up using the record button. They don't go to the move command. So if I want to move this building to a different position, I'll go to move, I'll pick position 1, hit OK, and it'll move it. Had I come in and instead of moving, recorded that as position 3 or 1 or whatever, it would record over that data, and that data would be lost. We'd have to either undo the data or not save it or bring that file back in to get the coordinates fixed. Okay, so you're going to need to remember to come in and use the move distances. Now, maybe you want to do something where you do want to record different data. So the way we'll get this done is I'll do that for building B here and lot B position. I'll just simply come in, and maybe I want to make a new position. I'll simply move this over to where I want it to be, move it first. I can then save that new location. I'll just hit OK at the moment here. And then I'll come back over to, and I'll re-record this position. Now I've changed it. I've now re-recorded over B. Now this is the new B position. I can even come in here and I'll just delete this one file, grab building A, and I'll just go in and move it to position B, and we'll see it's moved to that position I've now named it. So that's kind of the simplest overview of getting into this portion in here. And I think now we're going to start getting into, okay, I've done my role as the architect. I've started setting up this file, but different scenarios that we could get into as far as how our consultants are going to handle this. Because maybe I'm considering this one building, but in the case Tony here might end up considering this being 3 different buildings because he has different MEP or plumbing requirements based on the building, even though architecturally wise they're the same for me. So those plumbing requirements, where we're going to drain it, where the drains are going to come out might be different. So now I'm going to hand it over to Tony to start talking about this portion of the...
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I'm going to ask if you could hit undo or put your buildings back so that there's A, B, and C. Because right now there's A, or yeah, B was messed up. Cool, thank you. I'm going to save this file so that I can import this. I will use this same file now that the architect's got it completed. I am in the townhouse site. Oh, they've already been recorded, so I'm good. Just going to save this here, save the townhouse site. All right, so I'm back in Revit, so I'm going to simulate being at the mechanical engineer's office. Oh, in fact, just because I have them, let me flip back to the slides. Not that one. Alrighty, welcome to a live webinar. So we've set up the architectural file. Brian's got that set up in Revit. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import that location to my engineering files. There's a couple different ways I'm going to do that. First thing I'm going to do is link in the architectural background file, just like always. And then I'm actually going to use some of the same tools that Brian had. So you see I've got a blank file, clean Revit. I'm going to start with a brand new template, brand new file. Nothing else in it. I don't have any coordinates. I don't have anything in here. So as if you're starting a new project, you've just got your file from the architect, everything's set up. I'm going to bring in his townhouse file. I'm going to bring it in origin to origin. When in doubt, always bring it in origin to origin. In this case, it doesn't actually matter quite so much because I know I'm going to change those positions, but consistency is good. And on all your other projects where you don't have shared coordinates, it's just a good habit to bring it in origin to origin. If you've been through my class, you probably remember I do a little diagram on the screen, or Brian's class. I think he does the same diagram on why not to bring it in center to center, because the center can actually move. It's a short version. Alrighty, so I've brought in the architect's file. There it is. It's a little bit to the north. Now let me show you one method that threw me off for a while. So I've selected the building. Go to the Manage tab, and this is actually one that's not going to work. At least not going through it this method. So I'm going to acquire the coordinates because I know he has the coordinates in there, and I must have linked in the wrong file because it worked. Did you say no?
Yeah, you still need to select the link.
Oh.
So now when you select it, it won't work.
Oh, there we go. My bad. Okay. So what happens when I get in front of a live microphone? The brain starts to shut down. So this is the error I was expecting. Cannot acquire coordinates from model with multiple name sites because it has lot A, lot B, and lot C in there. If I go about it this way, it won't let me do it. And this is what, personally, it threw me off for quite a while. If I do it a different way, so I'm going to cancel end the command. So I'm out of that command. If I select the building first, do the noun verb, I can select the building, go to my shared site, my properties, my instance properties for this building, and I can acquire the coordinates. I do have to choose the second option. Acquire the coordinates system of Townhouse Revit and record it in my project. That's what I want to do. If I hit reconcile, this method will work. Now, if I look, I have this building. I'll select my building. Now I can go back to the same dialog box. I have to do the record positions first. Then I can choose. Oh, look at there. There's lot A, lot B, and lot C. That wasn't there when I first opened this file or even when I first linked it in. I had to grab those positions from the architect's file, from Brian's file. Now I can set this one to be lot A. Bring it in. It moves it into lot A. If I do, just like Brian did, I'll make a copy of this, put it wherever I want, even though I know that's not the final position. Did you rotate lot A? I wonder why that's rotated. I guess we did.
Rotated something, yeah.
Okay. Like last time we ran through this, only B was rotated. So I'm going to move this one to, I might have clicked on B. No, A isn't used. So I'm going to move this to lot B. There's lot B. Oh, I wonder if my...
I think my true north was set different.
Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to, as long as I'm at it, I'm going to make a third one of these. I put it anywhere I want because I'm going to change that position. Going through the instance properties, I'm going to move this one to lot C. You can even see in the list, lot A and B are already in use. C is still available. Hit OK on that, and there's lot C.
Okay, and actually, this is a good point in here. Brandon has a question. How does the different locations affect the project north of the linked file? And I think this is a good example where we can see where I believe my site plan I had rotated as a different true north facing, and that's why we're getting this particular project north versus true north within here.
So if I'm rotating it, well,
yeah, and then we can see that this is how we're getting it done. So hopefully Brandon then explains it, but here you can see that the site plan was done on true north. Now we've aligned to have true north, and we have that same facing. So you can see that it really comes in seamlessly when we're using this system, and we have that set up. So hopefully that answers your question, Brandon, on how this is working. It just kind of handles it the way you would expect it to, I guess is the simplest way of putting it. So as long as people are putting it in correctly and you have the view set up, either looking at true north versus project north, you should have the same results that you want to have when you're working with the project.
Thanks, Brian. As long as I'm here, I can insert the Revit file just so you can see where the site's at, so that makes a little bit more sense. I'll bring in the townhouse sites. I'm going to try linking it in by shared coordinates. I don't know if you've tried that before. If it doesn't have shared coordinates, it's just a nested links aren't going to appear. That's normal. If it doesn't have shared coordinates, this won't work. But this file does have shared coordinates, and you can see, oh, there they are. They line up exactly with the grid that you saw earlier in the architect's file. And Brian, is there anything you want to add? Otherwise, I'm going to. Looks like we definitely have time for that XML.
Yeah, there's a couple other questions that came up in here. So I'll go to Chris's first. He asked it way towards the beginning, but if one changes the floor elevation after having done these exercises, do you have to re-record the location? And let me see if I can wrap my head around this. So basically what I believe you're asking, Chris, is that if you start changing the elevations themselves, do you have to re-record? And my answer is going to be no. If it's the internal levels of the floor, you should be using your copy monitor and get that in through those means and methods. But if you're looking for the actual building itself, that will be changed. So it depends. Are you moving it up in elevation, the overall building, or just a level inside? I guess is what your my question to you. This has to do with the elevation of the overall linked model, not necessarily the levels inside the model. So no, you wouldn't have to re-record if you're just changing 12-foot plates. Okay, he's got a follow-up in here. Building elevation moving up or down in relation to the site. So in relation to the site, yes, you would have to re-record this. So you would have to repost that, or someone would have to go in, and then you would have to publish those coordinates back out to your users, the MEP, the structure, whoever needs it. So yes, in that case, you would have to re-record that. So hopefully that clears things up for you. And then James has a question in here. What does this do to all the families that are not hosted? Is there an easy way of realigning those? So if you're going to be using the hosted file, if they're part of the linked model, it's not a problem because they're inside the linked model. If they're not part of the linked model, you're going to have to put coordinate systems on them. So you're going to have to make a location for them and call those out. So if, let's say you have a fountain you're placing on the site that you built inside the site plan, you're going to have to, I guess it'll just be on the site plan, so it doesn't really matter. Honestly, James, I can't think of a situation where you need to realign those because those are going to be built in part of the file. I don't know if you had more to add to that, Tony.
No, sorry.
Yeah, so let's say you're putting in the MEP. I'm trying to think of an example where this would come into place. So maybe you can give me an example, James, of what you're thinking of. But for most of the time, those hosted families, like a chair, that's not necessarily hosted to a floor or anything. It's just kind of on a layer. But if it's inside the townhouse plan, it's going to move with the townhouse plan. So there shouldn't be any problems with that. The only thing I can think of is something you actually build native in the file, and then you'd have to find out another way of coordinating that. This is mainly you have to do with links, linking everything into the file. Okay, so
should I put myself at risk and go test that? Or do we want to keep going?
I don't know what a situation. You can try. I'm trying to think of a situation when this comes up where it doesn't work. But if it's a chair inside of a house, it moves with the house. That's not a hosted element. That's just a chair, standalone element. If it's so, James, if you have any ideas out there, if anybody has something that want to throw us our way, where it would be a families that are not hosted, wouldn't work. But I can't think of a situation. You're putting it either in the site or in the townhouse, or in the native MEP file, so it should work either way. All right.
Alrighty, and I'm going to change gears a little bit and show a new tool, a shared reference point tool. I alluded to this earlier. It is fairly new, 2 or 3 weeks I think it's been out. It was a lab, an Autodesk lab previously, and now it's been released. You can see I've had that screen up there for several minutes now. I'm sure you've probably read it. It is under Civil 3D, so if you look to download it, look for Civil 3D. So what I'm going to do is switch back to Revit, and whoops, too far. What this does rely on is that your civil engineer is also using this tool, and it's very simple, very small tool, and they will need Civil 3D. It will need to be 2014. Assuming they are using that, they can export the location of this site to a very small XML file. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play civil engineer. I'm going to assume that part's already done. When I switch back to Revit, I will start a brand new file. Let me close out of this. So I've got nothing in there. I'm going to start a brand new. Same, I'm going to use a mechanical template. I'm going to start a new file, I know I'm going to link in. Actually, I should have done that first. I just want to show you what there we go, it's a railway station. I'm just going to open this file just to look at it, and then I'll close it without saving it. So I know this is the file that I'm getting in. I'm trying to think if that's, no, that's not the file I wanted, sorry.
Well, that's the building file of what we have that we're going to bring in, and the site plan we'll get in a little bit.
So yeah, you can see what the building looks like. This one does not have the locations I was looking for. Well, I can demonstrate it both ways for the sake of time. I think I'm going to keep going. So I was going to demonstrate what the coordinates are for that file. Well, let me go ahead and do that. So I'm going to link in. Where am I going? Open, file open. There we go. They have one. And yeah, you can just ignore the name. We were just playing around earlier. If I take a look at this, and let's say the architect wants to have these corners line up, or the civil engineer, this is what's been agreed on. I am going to make a spot coordinates of this building.
Juliana likes the trees, by the way.
Oh, they 2014? They are 2014 trees.
Yeah.
And as I look at this number, I know that, okay, this one hasn't been fully set up. So I'm still in the architect's file. I'm actually going to save this. I'm going to, where's my Amanda tab? There it is right in front of me. Set the location, set the site of this to be my shared reference point, which is, I know that's what's been brought in from the civil engineer. So the architect has already done this part, well, except for this last little step, because I'm just in the middle of a couple things on this file. So out of the box, the file looks like this. I've got 55,000 meters, I think, actually.
Yeah, it's in metric.
Yeah, just to confuse things a little more. So you can, don't write down some of these steps as we're getting things set up. Come on, I'm waiting. There it is for GoToMeeting to catch up. And did I miss a step here?
No, we've got it in there.
Oh, I forgot the step made current. Okay, I can't. If you've been in my class, I've mentioned that I can't talk and click at the same time. You've seen how I spell things. So I forgot to click make current. Okay, there we go. Now the shared coordinates, the coordinate of that corner, see how that changed immensely? So now I know I'm at the right place. As far as the location, as far as the coordinates, so far as the site, location and site are two different things. I don't know if you want to jump into that for a second.
Yeah, so let's go in and open up the location button there real quick at the top and explain a little bit right here. So the location, this has to do with where in the world are you located, and this happens to be, actually this is in Farnborough, but it's in Lignan, UK, where this particular project is located at. And it's going to be a railway station. We're actually going to be using this next week when we're doing our Customer Appreciation Day. So this is a sample we've been messing with, and we'll be doing a more in-depth back and forth between Brian Haley and I on this particular workflow. There's some things that on the civil side that go and set up. You have to have both civil and Revit to kind of have this thing fully go through it. But one of the advantages that the civil industry now has is that they actually come with Revit in their suites package, so they're able to bring their civil files in, and it makes for a really nice thing to do. So here we have the location file. That's just showing where on the map it's at. But just because it's located on the world somewhere in your longitude, latitude, that doesn't mean it has the site location. The site has to do with whatever reference data you're going in, whatever GIS map, or I don't get into all this minutia. I don't think Tony does either.
No.
But which map system or coordinate system are you using based off of, I guess, UK coordinates in this case, or Colorado has like 8 different ways of recording data.
Yeah,
so,
I can say NAD 83 and try and sound smart, but that's as far as I can go.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways of doing it. So the site portion handles how the site data, where is their site survey point is going to be located, based off of topo maps or whatever data, whatever manhole cover that they're using, or Jimmy's garage door, or whatever it happens to be that they establish these coordinate systems from. So the site is a separate entity than the location itself. They do kind of play a little bit of hand-in-hand, but not too much. So that's kind of like a quick overview of that particular part in there. So one of the other things that we'll see is if we go to Tony's getting mad at the decimal,
yes.
on the decimal feet here, because it's just driving him nuts. There we go. There's some feet. No commas, but that's okay. If we get into the point of looking at how this came about, well, the MEP ends up recording this data on in civil engineering, and they make an XML file. And that was that file that or that little my shared coordinate system that Tony was looking at earlier. And then there's another little dialog you can pull down where, Shoni, you can go back to that slide, that will show you right there. Yeah.
Sorry, hang on. Wait for go to meeting.
Yeah. So there's going to be this one command you do, and it's great on our side, the MEP side, and the architectural side. All we do is we click on the little button and say show the data. Right there, import shared coordinates from XML file, and the magic happens, and they bring it in. And hopefully everything comes and lines up. If it doesn't, then go yell at your civil engineer because something messed up on their end.
Works for me. I like yelling at people.
All you do is, after you do that, we'd come back in, we'd click the 2 established locations on our building.
Tell you what, I think we have a few minutes. Mind if I run through this?
Sure, that'd be great.
All right, we jump back to Revit. And what I did here was I set the units to feet because I know my file is going to be in feet. And I just wrote down, this is the north, this is the east. So this is where the building is located in the world, or in its reference, in its, what do you call the coordinate system?
Yeah.
Whether it's Colorado, NAD 83, I don't know what the beyond that. So, okay, I have that in there. I'm just going to close this. I'm done with the architect's file. I just wanted to look in there and see where the coordinates are at. And I wrote down those numbers so that I know when I have it right. And I can, show you what it looks like when I have it right. So I'm back in my I'm back in my file, my engineering file. It's completely blank. Just have this one file open. First thing I'm going to do is link in the architect's file. Need that for the background. Make sure that's the most recent file. I'll bring it in. I'm going to do it origin to origin, although right now, because of the tool I'm going to use, it doesn't matter so much. But it's always a good habit to do origin to origin. I could do shared coordinates in this case, but just to demonstrate this. So I've linked it in. I have a file linked in. And let's see if it's the right location. So I'll go back to my annotate. Let me look at my spot coordinates on this. And, oh, that's not really close. Those are very small numbers. Just based on the number of digits, I know that that's not quite right. So let's keep going. I could do a couple different things. I could try the acquire coordinates that we looked at before. I could go and look at my building and link it in. We went through that just a minute ago. But I'm going to demonstrate this new tool that works fairly easily, fairly quickly. And, whoops, sorry. Has anybody ever hit escape, F1 when you mean to hit escape?
All the time, yeah.
Yeah, just that's...
In fact, now I just hit F1 when I enter the classroom. That way it just pops up and I minimize it.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think I might do that.
Then you don't have to worry about hitting again. So there you go. There's a little tip. So
yeah,
here we go, Tony.
So there's my add-in, the tool that's included with the Civil 3D, the productivity tool. And what I'm going to do is choose this, run this tool. In fact, let me back up just one more step and watch. I know some of the questions had to do with hosting and rehosting. I'm going to just demonstrate what happens. I will draw in just a big old dot. It's 24 inch, that's good enough. Just going to run through the inside of this wall just so that we can see if it moves, if this building moves now, or if our duct moves, or does a marked duct move to follow it. I can throw in some hosted elements if you like, but this one's unhosted, so if the unhosted one moves, then you know the hosted ones are going to move.
So I think this follows up on a little bit what James was asking about.
So I've started the command. It's asking me select a point to align with. I'm going to grab that corner because I've already coordinated this. I know this is what the civil and the architect are already using. I will choose
that XML file that the civil engineer provided that has all that data from Civil 3D, AutoCAD Civil 3D. That's what I was looking for.
There you go, Civil 3D, 2014. So are you sure you want to do this? Yes, that's why I clicked it. And then it tells me, yay, it was successful. It worked. So let me take a look. Let's see where we're at. Looks like our ductwork and our coordinates are not changed. Well, I guess there's one more step that I need to do.
Yep, there's one more thing we forget. Or we didn't forget, but, well, we forget when we first started, let me tell you that. But we got to go in and actually make that current. So still using the internal coordinate system, we're going to go in and make the shared reference point coordinate system current. And this will actually save a lot. You need to make it current. It's still not current. That's okay. We'll go back and give one more college try.
Sorry. And I wasn't even talking this time. I don't even have an excuse.
Yeah.
I clicked on it, and then, always important, click the button for make current. That's what makes it current.
Yeah.
You see changes there. Oh, look, there's those big old numbers.
So now we have that site coordinated, and what's nice about this is, again, you're getting out of the, you're going to have to set the, well, there it is, yeah, there's the data in there. We're coming up with the right information, or really close to it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've
got decimals instead of fractions.
Yeah, but other than that, we're pretty much there. So we've got that thing located in, and what the beauty of it is we're not limited to ranges of how far our site plan happens to be away from what we're dealing with. This coordinates within it. The civil wants to start moving things around again. We just go in and reinsert those locations, and beautiful days ahead of us. So it's a really nice tool to have. Even if you don't have Civil 3D, you can talk to your civil engineer, see if they can start setting it up, using it. It's a free, I believe it's a free tool for them to go download.
Yep, free on subscription.
I don't think they even need Revit to run it.
Nope, there's different parts to install. You install one piece, so different installation files, so they're good.
Exactly. So it's got all that in there, and there's some other really nice tools that come in with the civil package as far as how we can get the roads and everything else and start looking at the profiles that we bring in, and that's going to set us up for having a lot more. Now, again, we're going to get into a lot more of this next week at the Customer Appreciation Day, so if you guys want to come into that, let us know, drop us a line. It'll be an all-day event. We're looking over a lot of new technologies and stuff that are going over. So hopefully, James, I answered your question, that you have the ability that when you start moving these things around, if they're not hosted, they're going to move along with it. So with the civil one, that's a little bit easier to do. With the other ones, let's see. It says, we have an MEP firm. I'm just following up reading James' question here. We have an MEP firm and had an architect realign his model to match the civil, and it threw all of our MEP families off. Okay, we don't host because we have had architects delete objects which deletes our families. I believe if you delete objects in the current version, aren't they just
they become orphaned or unhosted. They stay in the same place, fortunately, which is much better than older versions of Revit.
And that happened in what, version 12 now?
I don't remember when they switched.
12 or 13. So hopefully, James, you have that in there so that they're not deleting altogether, that they're just becoming orphans. And you can, put up a fund to help those orphans out.
Yes.
Yeah, there's going to be other ways to have that coordination. Ours was 2012 or 2011. I believe, James, it was 2012 where they just become orphaned, and then you can reconcile the orphans. And that's going to be kind of a problem with that coming out there. That, yes, you're going to lose that stuff. A lot of times having everything linked into a file and getting that coordinate system set up again is going to be nice to do. You can go in and kind of reestablish those coordinates in there. I think Juliana had one other point, that she's seen architects use this process of putting all the buildings on the site without linking them in. They were just in there as native files. And yeah, that becomes a big headache. One thing you can do, though, is if those things are groups, you can always make a group a link, which becomes a great workaround. So if you've got someone who has a bunch of stuff in there, what I would say to do is you could grab all those different units, make them a group, and then you can make that group a link and then make coordinates for that. That'll be a big time saver. So I would say, Juliana, if you're having that problem again, what I would do is, if you can't convince the architect to go about doing it, go ahead and on your own group those buildings together, make them their own individual links, or make them one link to the same building and record it a bunch of times, and then you can set up the coordinate system based on that. That should save you some time. Hopefully that clears things up. All right, Tony.
All right, just going to just had this slide up here for a little while, but summary, number one, plan ahead. And along with that, set the coordinates at the beginning of project, and then don't change them. If you can help it at all, set at the beginning, and don't change the coordinates after the project is started. Brian, would you add anything else? I put on there, be sure to record the position. That was just one of the pitfalls before moving the position and when you're in that dialog box. Another useful tool that way we just didn't get into is specify coordinates at a point. If you have the coordinates, like I do on this Revit file, if I know these coordinates, instead of acquiring them, I can type in these numbers if I have basically the X, Y, Z, and the rotation. That can be useful. It can keep it simple.
It's actually probably one of the more preferred methods of setting up the coordinate system, is actually specifying coordinates at a point. Most people will come in and they'll just do origin to origin, and I don't know if you're like me, where I'm in the residential field, the last thing I get is the survey right before I have to go for a permit. So I'm working off of made up, the best I can do site plan drawings, and I really don't have a bunch of time. But using the specified coordinates at a point will save you that time where you can just go in and realign things and get it done at that location. So it seems to be an easier way of doing it, and I'd say if you are having trouble with those things, using specify at a point is going to be a lifesaver for doing that. I think we were thinking that when we were testing this out, we were going over our time, and now we're actually under our time, but that's going to be okay. We'll probably end early today. But there's going to be some more things that we're going to get into about coordinates, like moving the whole project up to sea level or down sea level. How does that get done? Mirroring a project over. What happens when we do that? And those are all kinds of things that kind of mess the project up. What happens when everybody starts moving the project 4 or 5 times around and you're unhosting? So those are other topics that we're going to try to get into within the next several months, next quarter, and answer those. So we're both hoping to expand on this topic here.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. And I'm sorry, I'm doing something on the other screen right now. Oh yeah, I was going to come back to the manually specified coordinates at a point. That's what it was. If you don't have Revit 2014, if your civil engineer doesn't have Revit 2014, if they can just give you the coordinates, you can use that tool instead of this XML export import that we were demonstrating. If you can't use that XML, which is a great little tool, you can still specify coordinates at a point.
Yeah, and I would say I'm going to definitely be using the XML, the Civil 3D version, if I can get my guys on board and doing it. That's going to be one of my more preferred methods. It just makes it easier, and also gets the liability off of me. Now I'm relying on the civil engineer to provide me with that stuff in there. Rachel asked, where can I find this lecture online? We are recording it. Hopefully the recording goes through. You will find online in the next, I'll say by the end of the month or so, by the time we upload them. We have a backlog of, I think, 1 or 2 videos that we're putting in there. We're just putting them up in batches, so hopefully we'll do it then. We're kind of getting, again, ready for that Customer Appreciation Day that's coming out in there. So we'll be recording this, so hopefully you can find that later.
Yeah, a couple events coming up. 2 more webinars. Revit Radio is coming up live. It's at the AIA National Convention. The National Convention is here in Denver, if you didn't already know that. And Revit Radio will be
so we'll be answering all your Revit questions there and keeping it live. So Mackie and Jude will be there. The Bryans will be doing that.
Another battle of the Bryans. Brains? Bryans. Not brains.
Yeah, and it is cool.
And July 9 is another webinar coming up. I don't know when your next one is. Is it?
I'm all over the place. Okay. I keep jumping around and everybody else. I just leech off everybody else's webinars.
That works for me. And you can always go to our calendar, CAD1.com/calendar. We'll take you right there. And additional events coming up. June 7, if you want to get certified in Revit architecture, or any other program. If you want to get certified in Civil 3D. I would recommend, learning Civil 3D. I don't know if we have any listeners, but Certification Day is coming up on June 7. If nothing else, that always looks good on a resume. And June 14th is our Design, Vision, and Innovation Day, formerly known as the Customer Appreciation Day. There it is. Come on. It's a little bit slow there, popping on the screen. Next Friday, free food, great speakers, Lynn Allen, Sean Hurley. We have Pete Southwood is more on the civil side. Scott Main is, I believe, he's not far from here.
No, he's not.
He's a local guy.
So we've got a pretty good list of speakers. Again, the food prizes, all the other stuff, free printing, scanning. So if you can join us, just give us a call, and we've got a lot of different things going on. Hopefully it's things that a lot of customers have asked to go see what's new, what's coming out, where's things heading, and we're going to definitely address that in here. We've got some really good people lined up for that, and obviously our staff here. That's also, speak up through my own mouth. But yeah, I'm surrounded by a lot of talented people, and hopefully you guys find that talent useful. You're our customers.
Yeah, I was just telling somebody else, we've got the current reigning Autodesk instructor of North America. Michael Calkins is here with CAD-1. Brian Haley sits right between me and Brian, is one of the few Autodesk expert elites. There's not very many of those, and he's one of those. And those are just 2 of the people that we have here for this conference. We've got big name speakers coming in. And if that's not enough, there's also, I've heard a rumor that's going to be a free iPad giveaway, a free iPad Mini. I forget
I don't know what they're giving away.
I heard a rumor of Apple TV.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
I think I might.
Tony's giving his car away, so we'll
That
do a raffle.
I'll trade it for an iPad.
Yeah, there we go. And then one last question from Juliana. Certification for what version? No, MEP does not have a certification version out yet.
Unfortunately, no. You can.
But architecture is easy, Juliana. You should be able to handle that just fine. It's easy stuff.
Yeah, just FYI, there's no Revit structure certification. There's no Revit MEP certification. There's only Revit
She already
architecture.
has it, of course. She already has the architecture. Okay.
Oh, she's already certified? Okay,
Yeah.
Good on you. Did you notice that, well, see, my little complaint is that if they're only going to have one Revit certification, it should not be quite so architecture-centric. There was quite a few questions on stairs and, I don't remember, dormers and what else.
You got to use stairs to get up to the second floor, so you MEP guys got to know what stairs are.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. There's a couple ways you can contact us. There's our website, there's Twitter, there's Facebook. I'm the first one on there. You can follow me on Twitter. If you're...
Revit dork.
Yes, I am Revit dork. Yeah, I'm not... Yeah, anyway.
Well,
anything else?
Nope. Thank you all very much for joining us, and have a wonderful day.